Hello everyone, middag, afternoon, molweni, dumelang. My name is Natasha Mkize. I'm the brand manager for Curro. I was asked to do this week's or this month's Power Hour session. And the first thing I thought of, what do I say? What is there to say after two brilliant speakers before me and also being an internal speaker? So I thought I'd bring it back home, and that's bringing it back to Curro. And because we're almost halfway through the year, it's just to give that one last run and go before we finish the year. So I thought let's chat about perseverance and using my life story in context and how life is all one big puzzle or one box of big Lego blocks. So I'll start off from where I come from. So I was born in Cape Town in a township called Guguletu. I was reared by my grandmother, who thought it would be best to look after all her grandkids. So she spoiled her kids by looking after all of us. But in hindsight, it's a blessing. So went to school, went to primary school, high school in Lansdowne, the high school called Livingston High. Did very well at school, was excited. Generally a happy child, a happy girl. Loved cooking with my grandmother, and I still love cooking, I still love eating. So passed matric and got excited about my plans after matric. So my plans after matric was to conquer the world, study travel and tourism, and see the world. And to my disappointment, got my results, did very well, got home, very excited. I was like, yay, I passed, yay, so can we register? And there was just this glooming silence in the room to say, sorry, you can't register because we actually can't afford for you to study. And I was very upset. I was thinking, why would they let me go to school? Why would they push me so hard for nothing, all these plans I have, what am I going to do now, and I really felt sorry for myself. And as you know, if you're reared by a grandmother, you can't backchat, you can't ask questions, you can't say why, you can't be cheeky if they call you that. So you can't be saying questions like why or shouting or screaming at them. So I had this internal anger, and the only thing I could do, I went to our room, and we used to keep all our shoes in ShopRite bags. So the ShopRite plastic bags that you buy food from, we'd keep our shoes in there, and I tore all those plastic bags, and I was very upset. Anyway, a few days later, and as you know, the results come in December, so at that stage it was December. Had the holidays, January came, I was like, it's a new year, what am I going to do? Enrolled for a short computer course, because at that stage, we didn't have computers at school. We just had your notebook and your pen and your pencil. So we didn't have the luxury of being able to use a computer. So I thought, okay, the first thing I need to know is to use a computer so that I can find a job, whether it's a desk job or whatever it is to do computers. Did a short computer course for about 12 months or 6 months. 100 words per minute was the target then, and I aced it. And then worked as a receptionist in an advertising industry or advertising agency, and worked my way up until I was in production and client service, jumped through the hoops of agencies, because those who know the ad world, it is a fun world. And I kind of grew up in advertising, which is part of marketing. Went through all the phases of advertising, enjoyed it. And through that, I was traveling. So I wasn't traveling the world, but I was traveling the mind. If you know advertising, you get given a brand, different brands. Each brand has different consumers. So in our world, our consumers are our learners and our parents. And in that stage, it was different consumers. So I got to escape to different worlds through brands. And that for me was, wasn't what I'd planned, wasn't what I'd intended to do, but I am still traveling. I'm not physically traveling, but I'm traveling through my mind. And then I reached a point, I think, after 3 to 4 years of excitement. So advertising was really exciting. Did nice, exciting things. I was young, carefree. And then I reached a point where I decided, okay, cool, what am I going to do now? So the original plan hasn't panned out. I'm on this journey. Am I enjoying the journey? Am I reflecting on this journey? And then took a moment to go, okay, cool. Actually, what is the next step? I've almost reached all the milestones in advertising. So if you think about advertising, if you're in the creative space, you either become a junior creative director and then an art director or a senior creative director. I was in the client service space where I started off as an account executive, then I was an account manager, then I was a senior account manager, then I was a group client service director, and I was like, shoo, the world is my oyster here, but I actually want to be in the marketing side. I want to be in the space where I'm dealing a lot more with numbers, I'm understanding trends, I can strategize, I can think how people think and what makes them tick. And throughout this journey, you can imagine, haven't been studying, I've just been winging it. And when I say winging it, learning as I go, like everything that gets thrown at me, I would take it and I would just literally just suck up all the information. I would work late, I would stay home late, weekends I would study, I would read the mind, I would Google all, and Google is your friend, guys. If you don't know anything, Google it. But most importantly, read. And I think that was one thing my grandmother parted to me, to say, read, always read. She forced us to listen to the newspaper, to listen to the news. I still hate the news. I find it depressing. But it was sitting there knowing, she always used to say, know your general knowledge. If you have to bump into somebody and they ask you something, what are you going to say? It's not just about your bubble. What is happening in the outside world? And I thought, oh my gosh, do I really have to do this? So we would sit in front of the TV, waiting for the news, and then go to bed. And then from that, I was like, okay, cool, I need to, again, traveling the mind. I then decided I'm going to study. And I went to AAA, did a short course at AAA, and then moved and went into before that, I had my daughter at 24. She's now turning 16. You figure out the maths. And for me, that was, sure, now I'm a mom. What am I going to do? What is this thing that I want to leave behind? What is my legacy? And everyone tells you about this legacy. And I thought legacy back then was either a material thing. You want to leave your kids with this, big bank account and a fancy house. And in where I come from, we didn't have that. And so for me, legacy wasn't material, but legacy was heart, was kindness, was love, was empathy, was just being a good person. And I still want to leave that behind for my kids. I've got 3 now, fast forward, 1 daughter and 2 beautiful boys. And the legacy that I want to leave behind is hard work. It's really just, you need to earn your stripes in life, that nothing gets given to you. Sometimes you have a plan and the plan doesn't work out, but you persevere and you move on. And like I said in the beginning, it's one big puzzle. You're constantly finding that piece that fits into that puzzle. And if it doesn't fit in, create your own puzzle. I mean, now we don't do puzzles, we do robotics. So we code. So if that paper puzzle doesn't work, go to the computer, code and decode your life and find the code that's going to work for you. Fast forward a few years down the line, I've been studying part-time whilst working, parenting 3 kids, not an easy job. Being a wife, have to add that. That's another job on its own. But you can just imagine juggling all those hats and trying to find balance. And with this continuous effort, and when I say effort, or the continuous push, because I think effort feels like you're forced to do it. But in my instance, I don't think anyone is forced to do anything. You really, if you're passionate about where you want to be and what you want to do, you kind of find ways of navigating through life. You find ways of re-energizing yourself, of reinventing yourself. Again, that Lego block, that puzzle, that code, what is that decode that you want to do? And then years later, fast forward, I stumble across, or not stumble, meet this amazing woman, Marie Lautergan, who told me about this opportunity at Curro. And I was like, shoo, a wife, a mother, 3 kids, I think it's time to grow up. And how do you grow up? You take new challenges. So I've never been in the education industry. I've always been in FMCG, selling a product, which was very easy because you can morph a brand, you can add things to a product. But education is literally a foundation. It is a need. It's a basic need for our future leaders of our country. So having that in mind, I was like, shoot, this is not just another job. It's not just another role, but it's actually a calling. It's a calling to say all these things that you've been piecing together, this is where you need to be. So I looked at the opportunity and I went, sure, here I'm going to have to learn again. I'm going to have to learn the industry itself. I'm going to have to morph through the role. So even though I know marketing and I'm marketing FMCG, what is marketing to a parent? What is marketing to myself now, and not to buy sweets, but to build a future for my kids? And I grabbed the opportunity. I'm now here, almost 2.5 years later, and enjoying it, because every day is different. You can imagine we have over 70 campuses. That means over 70 schools with unique communities, 70 communities, 70 odd communities. And I think the joy and the beauty of South Africa is that we are so diverse. Every day is not the same. Every learner is not the same. And I think, as I started off saying, that we are approaching that half-year mark. What is this thing that I'd like to impart to you? And what I want to impart is to say that we've got all these communities that we are responsible of. You, me, the teachers, the colleagues that sit at centralized office, be it in Cape Town, Johannesburg, the curriculum team, sports facilitators, our culture teams, culture heads. And what we need to understand, that we all have one goal, and we have this goal to leave a legacy, and a legacy of learning, a legacy of educating, a legacy of building a future for South Africa. And it all starts here. And I think when we have that goal in mind, we need to understand that because we are all so different, because we all have different views, is that to understand that we each have a different lens. And it's through those different lenses that we can achieve our goal of having this holistic learner, the holistic child. We speak about academics, we speak about culture, we speak about sports, but it's uniting through those lenses to form that learn and to form that culture of learning. So today, all I want to say is that don't give up. Don't throw away that block that's not fitting into your puzzle. Try and reshape it so that it forms into this puzzle that you want. Decode it. Look for another Lego block. But yeah, view your lens, view somebody else's lens, empathize, be kind, because my lens is different to your lens. But if we ultimately have one goal and one vision, all those lenses form one beautiful, colorful end game. Looking back at these photos, I have a sense of nostalgia, of just looking at how I've learned, how I've grown, but yet still enjoyed life. Times are tough, times are hard, but I think when you can look back to where you come from and where you are right now, it's beautiful to go through those lenses and through time, just to note and to kind of pat yourself at the back. I mean, we say be kind, be empathetic, but sometimes we're not kind to ourselves. Be kind to yourself. Look back, take that moment to look at pictures, review what you've done and what you've not done, and don't beat yourself up, because you still have the opportunity of tomorrow. I always say to my kids, today might not be a good day, but you still have tomorrow. And I know a lot of people say you might not have tomorrow, you might just have today. So make the most of today, so that if tomorrow happens, you still have yesterday and you still have today. I'm incredibly blessed to have this beautiful young family. For my sins, I married quite a staunch Zulu man who's an engineer. And those who know engineers, they stick to a script. There is no puzzle to them. Everything has to fit into a piece. And then he has this flamboyant, extroverted wife who is a mix of Zulu, Xhosa. My dad was Xhosa. My grandmother, who I mentioned earlier, is Capetonian, Cape Coloured. So you can imagine I could speak coloured Afrikaans. Ek kan suiwer Afrikaans praat. As jy sê, kyk dit, hoe lyk dit? Ek is daar. I can speak Xhosa, Zulu. So I think that mix of genre, and to impart those kind of diversity to my young kids, is, I think it's a blessing, especially to understand where you come from and where we're going. So that, as I mentioned earlier about lenses, to understand that there's this different viewpoint. Even if you just look into your own family, you can see there's a beautiful story to tell. So I'm incredibly blessed to be able to say, I am not this, but I am a person. I don't have a label of who or what I want to be or what I am, but I've got a label to say, I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm blessed. I'm thinking now, what would I say to my younger self? To that 18-year-old girl sitting on the floor, tearing up those ShopRite bags, thinking that there was no beginning, there was no end, or there was no future. And I would say to her, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for finding that puzzle. Thank you for persevering. You didn't know what the next day would bring. You didn't know what your future was. But your future looks great. And thank you for not giving up. To everyone at Curro, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining the session. I hope I've imparted something. I hope you've learned something. I hope I've been inspired. But always remember our legacy, the future of our young leaders. Thank you for joining us.